Tate, Executive Director of Franklin Tomorrow. We're so glad you're here for Frank Talks, for our monthly Frank Talks lecture, and thank you to Columbia State for always being so gracious and allowing us to be here. There is coffee out there, as I mentioned before. Some water and restrooms are down either hallway if you feel the need to get up and move around. Because this discussion this morning may make you feel like you need to get up and move around. And there's some great trails behind us here on the hill. If you go down halfway down the other side of the hill and turn right into the parking lot is a great City of Franklin walking and bike trails, so mountain bike trails. So a great place to be today, to think about taking a walk and walking the Camino de Santiago. We're so appreciative of Kelly being with us this morning. I'm going to tell you up front, when Kelly finishes, she's going to be pushing to get out the door because she has a flight to Connecticut, is that right, this morning? And so she's got to get out of here, but we're so appreciative that she gave us this time. It's also her first official day of retirement, but she's going to tell you more about that. So we have to be really appreciative of our speaker and be thinking of some questions. I hope we'll have time at the end for those questions. So Frank Talks is brought to you by Renaissance Bank, and Diane LeBlanc is here today, even though this is a bank holiday. Look at the dedication in this room. I mean, woo! Yes, bank holiday. Got up and got dressed. I mean, that's a pretty big thing. That would be huge for me to do for a holiday. So appreciate Renaissance Bank and all they do for our community. Diane's right there on Columbia Avenue across from the police station. Has a great view. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. So thanks to Renaissance. And then also thank you to Williamson Medical Center, who is our sustaining partner for Franklin Tomorrow's programs in 2021, and we appreciate them, and we have a short video from them. And now I'm not going to touch anything, and Emily's going to make that video work today.
Williamson Medical Center has long been committed to the highest quality and safety standards, and 2021 is no exception. The hospital has once again received a 5-star rating from CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. The hospital is among only 3 5-star hospitals in Tennessee and one of only 455 nationwide. The overall star rating is awarded from these 5 categories: safety of care, readmission, mortality, the patient experience, and timely and effective care. The distinction is representative of the team's dedication to compassionate, quality care. Williamson Medical Center is honored to be your 5-star hospital.
Thank you, Emily, for making that work. Wow, it's so good. We are so appreciative of that. We appreciate Williamson Medical Center, and we appreciate the opportunity to show you a little bit about what's going on at our community-owned hospital. And over the next few months, we hope to have a visit from Phil Mazuka, who's the new CEO of Williamson Medical Center, but very familiar with our community, but giving him a chance to get settled in. And you may have heard that they just announced a $189 million expansion over the next few years to add beds and add facilities and services. So we appreciate Williamson Medical Center and all they do for Franklin Tomorrow, but the community in general. So who knows Kelly in this room? I feel like she's got a lot of friends in this room. Yay, a lot of friends in this room. If you have a Facebook account, if you want to pull out your phone and share this to your Facebook page today, we are broadcasting it on Facebook Live. But Kelly is a co-founder of Homepage Media Group. And until Friday, she led a team which published 6 daily online news sites providing a consistent and reliable source of news to Williamson County. Now, she's an avid traveler, and you're going to hear about that today, and you're going to hear how travel has become a huge part of her life and how she's getting ready to make that maybe even a bigger part of her life. We've been so appreciative of Kelly's support as a board member of Franklin Tomorrow for several years, and also then her support prior to that just as a citizen. And we appreciate all she's done through Homepage Media and other organizations to benefit our community. And I think she'll tell you a little bit about some of her avid interests, like battlefield preservation and that kind of thing as well. But please welcome Kelly Gilfillan.
Good morning. I did arrange my flight around this meeting, I have to admit, and changed it twice. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming. It's kind of cool for me. You know, a lot of you are friends through work, but my mom is here, my best friend from high school is here, and it's nice. And thank you all who don't know me and showed up anyway. So, I think I'm just going to jump into the Camino. I have to say, I gave this presentation one time before to my mom's Bible study. And so I actually put this together in September 2018, which was very fresh, 3 months after I hiked it. And I added to it the kind of what's happened since then. So the Camino, just in case you didn't do your homework, is a 500-mile hike in Spain. It's one of 28 different routes, and Camino de Santiago means the way of St. James. And so it's 1,200 years old, and people have been doing it for a long time. It got lost for probably about a century, and in the 50s, some priests that were local, the communities needed some economic boosts, and the priests kind of came together and brought back, there's a really good book about it. Of course, I don't know the name of that book. But they revived the Camino. So from the 50s to now, it's become 250,000 people a year hike the Camino. That's just the French Way, which is the one I hiked. It's the most popular, and to me, the reason it's the most popular is it has the most services. So there's the most hostels, there's the most restaurants. It's the safest place you can be because there's very little wilderness, and you can usually see somebody ahead and somebody behind because there's so many people on the route. And I have a friend, Bill Austin, who hiked the Camino Francés, he hiked the Norte, and he's done the Via Francigena, and you'll kind of see how I end up getting there, but he was the person that I first heard of it, and that was probably back in 2011. So sometimes it takes a while to get there. So my life in January 2018 was a little bit in upheaval. With Homepage Media Group, I had bought my partner out in 2015. Susan exited the business, Susan Leathers. And so I'd been running the business by myself, which was great and yet exhausting. and we definitely had some challenges. The media business is tough. But it turned out I was going to be getting a divorce. And that was really the impetus to why I ended up going on the Camino. I wanted to find my what's next and figure out who I wanted to be going forward. So with my kids, it was like, you know, the typical, they were older, they were in college and graduated, but still there's a lot of emotional upheaval watching your parents go through that. At work, I had zero focus, and thank God for Sioux Falls, who's in the back, because she kind of helped me hold it together. But, you know, it just takes time when things like that happen. So I already talked about that. And physical self-care, I was just in a tough place. I didn't want to be alone because then my head was just spinning all the time. And so I started dancing lessons. I was like, well, I'm going to Spain, so I might as well learn how to salsa. And that was kind of fun. And I accepted every invitation for dinner. I think I was at the Falls house, 20 times. My mom cooked me dinner a million times. So, I was just in this tough place. Even spiritually, it was hard to go back to church because I'd been going to that church for 17 years as a family. So it was feeling weird to go back there. And then it was just, self-preservation. How do I find myself again, preserve what's left, and not just really think about surviving, but thriving. And so it's a hard place to get when you're going through a divorce. And so the big decision, okay, well, I forgot I said that. Contrary to popular belief, God doesn't always spell it out for you. Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith. And there's several sayings on the Camino, but one of them is, once the Camino calls, you're going. Sometimes it takes you 10 years to get there. Sometimes it takes you 4 months, which is what it took me. Once I made up my mind, I was gone. But you do get really laser focused on what that journey would look like. You start thinking, should I be hiking? Should I be training? But on the way, you start building your Camino family. That's another big thing about the Camino family. And I found people who were going on the Camino at a similar time. Her name was Susan, and she had some other friends that were going. I was going by myself, but Susan and I trained for 4 months. She was like this little perfect person to drop in my life because she already had a training plan. She was like, just come on. I was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to figure that out. But I'd run 8 half marathons. I knew how to train, but it was just, there was, again, a lot going on in my head. And the Camino really doesn't end. And that's something that you learn along the way. I like people to know that in the beginning, because I think that most people figure it out as you're walking into Santiago, that really the Camino is your life. It means the way. So whichever way you go, that's your Camino. And so then you, of course, are making the choices along the way. And there we go. So my decision to go was very fast. It literally happened in one day. Now, I've been thinking about it and kind of tossing and turning. And so the first thing I did was tell my kids, and my kids are also avid travelers, so they were like, go, Mom, go. And then I had to tell my family, and my mom and my sister were like, you're gonna what? And my sister literally was trying to talk me out of going the day I was leaving. They were, of course, they were a little worried. But and then there's a movie called The Way, and if you're interested in going and you haven't watched it, I'm seeing nodded heads, so a lot of you have already seen it. It really does depict what it's like, especially for Americans. I mean, I think it's different for different nationalities, but you see the progress of going, walking it, starting it by yourself, and how you pick up people and meet people along the way, and the sharing that goes on. So I really recommend it. You can actually buy it on Amazon Prime for $1.99 or rent it for $2.99. After I bought it twice, I decided to buy it for $2.99 because I was buying it and sending it to my kids and asking my parents to watch it. So I watched The Way, and it was kind of, there was something big going down that day. I don't want to be too personal, and so my friend Bill says, well, this is the perfect night to watch The Way. So get your mind off of everything. And I was like, okay. So I start watching it. I get about an hour into it, and he calls me, and we have this long talk. We talked for 3.5 hours. I think we hung up at 1:30, 2 o'clock. I actually fell asleep, woke up, and he was still talking. He was talking me into going on the Camino. And because it started off like, just tell me about a day on the Camino, and then we ended up talking forever. Went to sleep, 2 o'clock, woke up at 5, not happy. I really wanted to sleep, but I couldn't sleep. So I got up, made some coffee, went downstairs, and finished watching The Way. And I thought, oh my God, I really think I'm gonna go. I need to talk to my friend Karen about this. And I'm watching the credits, and I get up to walk across the room, and this is at like 6:30 in the morning. And Karen calls me. I didn't even make it across the room. and I started laughing and crying at the same time. I said, oh my God, I cannot believe you just called me. And of course she says, God is good. And then I went to work, and so we made plans to see each other later. I went to work. I opened Jesus Calling, which is another great book I recommend, and did the devotional for that day. And it was, God is walking this path with you. Follow him this way. And he's going to carry you when you need to be carried. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And then I went back to my house that afternoon and met Karen, and she literally sat there and gave me almost word for word the same speech that Bill had been giving me the night before. And so I just thought, I picked up the phone and I called my husband. I said, I'm going. And he said, okay, we got to get you some stuff. And so that's kind of that crazy, The Way, the phone call, the second phone call, and then I met my friend Susan, who turned out to be a really big gift of, there we go. So a pilgrimage, and just kind of getting down to defining what it is. It really is something different for every single person. Every 250,000 people that walk the French Way every year, it's very different. So the journey of a pilgrim, back then it was to a shrine or a sacred place, which was St. James is buried in the cathedral. They found his remains and placed him there. And back in the day, that's kind of how those Catholic churches were focused around some kind of relic or some kind of saint. And so you can actually go in and see the little casket where his remains are to this day. And then I love this, the course of life on earth. When you think about how many different courses and how many different seasons that you have of life, and this was just one of my very long journeys. So you do have to think understand it is a very physical journey. But I do believe almost anybody can do it, but you do need to train. I don't recommend just deciding to go and get on a plane and go to Spain and think you're going to walk 500 miles without getting hurt. It does take a lot of training. It's long, it's arduous. Some days really do hurt, and you do have to listen to your body and know when you got to slow down. It's tough when you're on a schedule. I gave myself 7 weeks, so I never really felt pushed to have to be anywhere at any certain time. There's very little private time except when you're walking, and that's when you're going to do your, really follow your inner journey. Some days you just want to put your earbuds in and not think, but most of the time it's just so peaceful, and I really even learned how to meditate while walking. It's so interesting. Although you walk alone, you are part of an intricate community, because you walk through bigger cities, but that backpack on your back and that shell, hanging from your backpack, or that shell necklace that you have on, or, we all have we're usually pretty dirty. I did bathe every day, but and you're hand washing your clothes every day, that's the fun part. But you see each other, and even people who live in those cities who are kind of supported by your dollars as you come through, everybody says, Buen Camino, beautiful way. And it's just a natural thing that all pilgrims say to each other. There's another word, Ultrea, which means onward, and that's a much more older Galician Spanish word. The Camino provides as one of the other little sayings that you go, and whether it's you have to borrow a Band-Aid, or you need to borrow somebody's charger because you left one at the hostel, or you just realize you left your towel hanging on the line, there's always somebody there, and it really becomes like this just intricate web of the people you need happen to be right in front of you, and it feels so good to actually be that person that somebody needed, and you just start filling up with all of the love and the sharing and the kindness of people. I'm a very social person, type A. Any of you who know me are probably giggling when I say that, but very type A. And so it was almost hard for me to take those moments to be alone. I wanted to meet everybody and talk to everybody and hear where they were from, and it's really just such a cool experience. Hopefully not once in a lifetime for me. I want to go back and do another one. And the other thing that happens is people start getting Camino blues. They don't want to go home. They get closer, it's just like, go, this is so awesome. And then the last 3 days, you want to turn around and go the other way. Let's start over. So the closer you get, you are getting closer to who you are, but the reason it gets hard is because now you have to go back to where you came from. And you have to go back as this new person, and having had all these new experiences, and still go back to your old life. I still have to go back and run my company, and I have to go back and be a mom, and I had to move. My kids did this cool thing I love to brag on. That's my 3 girls. That's the night before I left. We had a lovely dinner downtown. And but my oldest daughter came up with the idea to give me a card at really special points along the way. So I think it was 14 cards, and my kids had all signed each one of them. And this one I opened when I got on the plane, and I love it. It said, and suddenly it's time to start something new and trust the magic of beginnings. So cool. My kids are so awesome. So gifts of the pilgrimage, you have time for God, or you have time. Some people don't believe in God. There's a ton of people that are not Catholic, not believers. There's Jewish people, there's Buddhists. That's the beauty of it. But for me, it was time for God, time with God, time for God. And, it was a time of acceptance that I'm getting ready to go through a huge change in my life, and I know I'm going to be okay. I've got to accept this, and I got to keep going. Of course, forgiveness and healing. I think that goes without explanation. And then breathing in new life was just I don't know, I say it, not to be dramatic, but I do feel like it saved my life, that having that time for myself. And I could have come back and been mad. I could have come back and been depressed. I could have come back and been a mess, which, not that I wasn't a mess at sometimes. But I love this quote: "The thing that constantly plays on my mind is the desire of a bygone era to express the magnificence of God through the creation of those cathedrals. The take home for me is to work on expressing my understanding of God by the way I live my life and relate to others." And I met people along the way who are like, these cathedrals are abomination. It's a waste of money. And, even though they were built 500 years ago. But all of these beautiful cathedrals are very supportive of the pilgrims, and they have special pilgrim blessing ceremonies and services. And so I completely understand the gaudiness of it, but when you think that people were building that in honor of something that they believed in, whatever it was they believed in, and Santiago is magnificent, but so was Burgos, so was Leon, the cathedrals, even the smaller mini cathedrals, I don't know what they're really called, churches, were absolutely beautiful. So you start in Saint Jean Pied de Port, which is in France, and you walk up and over the Pyrenees. The middle picture is Kiki from Sweden, Kiki Pedersen. She was the first pilgrim I met. So she got it, and we went to the pilgrim office, and I'm on the top right, I'm getting my credentials. And that's the first hostel I stayed at, which was a referral from one of Bill's girlfriends, because he had me talk to a woman who'd been hiked the Camino, so I could hear from her what it was like from a woman's point of view. And it's my first pilgrim's meal, and that's me the next morning about to step off, and that's a very, very early breakfast. It was dark that morning. And my first day is filled with this magnificent eye candy. You literally walk up and over the Pyrenees. Some people stop after about 6 miles, but most people keep going, and it's over 20 miles that very first day. It rained, I saw snow, the sun was beating down on me. I had 4 seasons in one walk in that day. And this is the Black Mary, and it's a big deal to pilgrims. It's really the first time you see Mary along the way. And then when you get to the top, you're going over into Spain, and just beautiful fields, and of course, it's just every corner you go around is just magnificent. That was my first pilgrim's blessing service. You stay in a monastery in this town, and the next morning, the first day of hitting the real road, not climbing the Pyrenees, it's pouring rain. so you got to see it all the first 2 days. My first Camino family was a group of women that I met. Kiki, I ran into her. She left, and I stayed in St. John for a night. And so I actually ended up catching up with her. And we met Victoria and Carissa. It was, I think, Sweden, Germany, and New Hampshire. And I walked with them for a few days. And then while I'm with them, I start meeting my second Camino family, because I was going to stay in Pamplona a day, and all the other ladies were going to keep going. And so they were a short-term Camino family, but I'm actually still in touch with 2 of them. But they were amazing, beautiful. First real act of service I saw on the Camino was Victoria's knee just blew up on day 3, and Kiki carried her backpack on her front while she had hers on her back, and so Victoria could make it to the next town. It was so cool. Camino breaks and unites hearts, very true. One of the cool things along the Camino, there's actually a lot of graffiti, and it makes some people mad, but there's some of the things that people wrote just straight from the heart right onto a concrete wall or a sign like this is amazing. And it was written by Paulina in September of 17. So, and I'm still seeing it in May of 18. And this is my second Camino family. Then we ended up having dinner in Pamplona. We stayed in the same hostel the night before. I ended up walking kind of in and out of them that day. And that's kind of at the end, right before you walk into Santiago, we made it together. And they're from, 2 from Seattle, 1 from Dallas, South Africa, and Australia. and New Mexico. This is a typical pilgrim meal. A lot of times they had paella. A lot of times it was vegetarian. And they would have these big, long tables where you're sitting with people from all over the world. And you're having, and you know, it's, hi, I'm Kelly. Where are you from? Nashville. That was my trail name. Everybody called me Nashville. And then the next question is, why are you here? And then you eventually get to, are you going all the way to Santiago? How long is it going to take you? Where are you staying tomorrow? Do you know a good hostel? So there's a lot of opening up of the heart because, I mean, reasons some of the people are there. You know, I'm walking with my son. He's been addicted to drugs for 20 years, and I lost my wife. I'm carrying her ashes on my back. There's a lot of I'm getting a divorce. There's a lot of I lost my job, and I don't know what to do, and I'm hoping I can figure it out when I'm here. I mean, just really, I mean, if people just bloop, right across the table. They don't know you from Adam or Eve. And it's just open. Everybody trusts because they all know that we're all here doing the same thing for all different reasons. And it's beautiful. There's some more eye candy. That's my friend Lindsay from Australia, just standing there watching the sunset. I don't know why he stood on the picnic table, but it was an awesome picture. And that's what it looks like a lot of the time is walking down that road. And I love it when the water shows the reflections. There's a lot of little rivers and lakes and stuff. But no ocean along this way anyway. And that was just a beautiful view. That's right before I was about to go to Cruz de Faro. So my friend Susan came up with 6 lessons of the Camino, and I'll go through these quickly because I want to make sure I get to the end. Okay, good. Number 1, she said, we carry our fears in our pack, and they are heavy. You know, I would add pain to that. You know, you have 20 pounds on your back. A lot of guys will carry more because their clothes are heavier because they're bigger, but I tried to keep mine to 19, 20 pounds because 1 liter of water weighs 2 pounds. So I got 20, and then I fill up my 3-liter Camelback, and then I've got 6 more pounds on my back. So you have to have a system, and luckily Bill had one, and I just took the Word document and followed every word he said. But, you know, I think you learn along the way that those things, that divorce or that fear or whatever it is, do weigh you down. And so, you know, once you start accepting what you cannot change and you face the future, you start getting lighter. And I know that's really for your soul, but you do start feeling lighter. Number 2, the better prepared you are, the easier the journey. All of that is my second day, sorry. You know, that's when Victoria's knees blew up. That was a really hard hike. And you get to the hostel and you're just like, you just got to get those wet clothes off and you got to get everything washed and hopefully dry by the next day. And but that's what a typical bunk looks like when somebody just walks in. Here we go. Who you travel with matters. I think that you see some people who come with 2 or 3 or even 4 or 5 people, and everybody ends up kind of walking alone. Some people don't get along, and you have to be brave to say, I just need to walk by myself right now, you know, or be even braver and say, I really need somebody to walk with me right now. And so this is the bottom is Susan Depew. We're actually business partners now, and that is my Camino family, Linda, Bill, Ann, and Lindsay. All literally walking into Santiago. I treasure that picture because you can see how extremely happy we are. Come on, clicker. Do I need to aim it in this? Oh, there we go. We're all equal. I mean, I believe that to my tippy toes, to the top of my head. But when you get out there and you're so small in this very vast scenery, you realize how you're not really that special. You may be that special to your mama and your children, but you just realize how from no matter where you are, we're all the same. We're all a human, you know. We're all afraid, we're all happy, and we're all everything. There's yellow arrows all along the Camino, and that's literally how you learn where to go. A lot of people are walking with maps, but it's just really well marked. The priest that did that back in the 50s, and it's continued. But here's some, you know, life is the Camino. I love this. This was my friend Bill. He was 72, hiking with his 27-year-old daughter. And this was his favorite. He was like, when you get to this tunnel, and so then he made sure we were all together because he wanted us all to see his favorite graffiti, because it says, "Can I walk any slower?" Yes, I can. And can't even read that. But there's funny things and there's heartfelt things. Here's some more. You're just walking along and you see "You are loved. You got this." And I love this "Yay God, boo devil." So hilarious. And there's one, "Be proud of yourself." And it's just kind of everywhere, and it's lovely. Oh, and this was I actually stayed in a hotel instead of a hostel in Pamplona, and I walked up to the elevator, and it says, "Believe in you and everything will be possible." I was like at an elevator. That was cool. One of the things that happens kind of when you're starting off and you could have 8 miles that day, you could have 20 miles that day. There's not very many 20-mile days, and they're by choice. There's options to stop. I don't want to scare anybody. But when you can see down the hill and you can see the town, everything feels a little bit lighter and a little bit better, because oh gosh, I'm going to get to take these boots off, I'm going to get to take a shower, and I'm going to go have a glass of wine. And it's all going to be better, and these muscles aren't going to hurt as bad. So I think that was, and it's like that in life too. It's just another, mirroring of life. If you know where you want to go and you can see selling your business, you can see your retirement, life gets easier. When I made the decision to retire, my work life became so much more easy and peaceful. It was kind of strange. This is, I like everybody on the Camino, at some point or another, you kind of face your demons. These paintings were on a wall in a Benedictine monastery in Samos, which is about the halfway point. And you can go in and have a tour. The monks will give you a tour. And I came around the corner and I saw this evil devil. And I was like, "You stinker, like you're the one who's been bugging me." And you just see the people challenged by the demons, and I thought these were a beautiful depiction of what it feels like to be in that bad place. And it just feels like that snake's wrapped around you. But there's always your angels, whether there's real angels, or they're your mom or your sister or your kids or your best friends. I had a lot of angels, and so she gave me that sense of peace after looking at these devils. But if you could ever go there, that tour of that monastery they had incredible gardens. It was like kind of 2 big squares, and the gardens in the middle they were sustainable gardens. They ate out of, it was beautiful. One of the big stops along the way is Cruz de Ferro, and there's a very tall cross. It's called the Fiery Cross. That's what Cruz de Ferro means. And St. Francis was the one who actually, after he hiked the Camino, he was the one who put that up. I don't know all the story, but I do know that. And it's tradition to carry a shell or a rock or something from home and leave it as a memory, an offering, a memorial. It's different to every person. And so I had a rock for May 30th, 1987, and then I had another rock May 30th, 2018. And it was weirdly turned out to be the day that we sold our house, was on our 31st anniversary. That was kind of weird. And then my kids had a card for me. There are far better things ahead than any we may leave behind, which was beautiful. I also carried others. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law who had passed away. Brother-in-law had had a brain injury, so I carried that in their memory. I had one for my mom and dad, and that's me. And I had a friend who had lost her son to suicide, and the son was a twin. And so I found these 3 heart-shaped white rocks, and they were kind of that sparkly rock. I don't know what it's called. So I had Trish in the middle and her 2 twins on either side, and I left those for her. And yeah, that's me at the bottom of the cross. And this is the prayer that people carry that with them. And I'm not going to read it because it'll make me cry. but a lot of, it's such a special place, and it's a milestone in the journey that it's hard to say. That's me again. I walked away, and I had forgotten to put down Trish, John, and Kelly's rocks. And I looked at Lindsay and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot. And so I walked back, and it was totally cloudy. You could see I was encased in fog when I was there. And I walked back, and the sun shone right down on the cross when I came back to put down their 3 rocks. And it was so beautiful. And that's after that day, it was just like a big celebration because you're kind of emotional leading up to that. You know it's coming. You know it's coming. You know it's coming. And then we were just like, woohoo! And had a great dinner. And so the approach to Santiago, you're up on this really big hill, and it starts getting more crowded on the trails from Sarria. You have to walk 100 kilometers to get the Compostela, which is the certificate of completion. And there's these statues up at the top that everybody likes to go get their picture taken with, but you got to go way off the path, which I wasn't told, to get to them. And so I just kept going, and I got there anyway. And I saw on one of the stones, "Are we there yet?" But you can see the cathedral in the distance. And I love this little sign. This one person had a fence, and they had probably like 40 of these signs along the way, and they had them in Spanish and English. It says, "History repeats itself when we do not learn everything there is to learn from our experiences." So I would let history repeat to go back and do the Camino. And this is us arriving in Santiago. That's me getting my 2 certificates. And then just all of my family celebrating. It's also a tradition to heave your 20-pound backpack over your head and get your picture taken. My pants were about falling off me at that point. I lost 10 pounds, and when I came back and got in the gym and got on the thing, I was like 18% body fat. I've never had that before in my life. My arms were ripped, never to look like that again. And then I went and found a beautiful little garden and opened the last card for my kids. And then the way back tradition was to keep going. So Santiago is inland, and Finisterre, Muxia are the end of the world. And way back when, 1,200 years ago, they thought that was the end of the world. Like, to go to that coast, there was no other land anywhere, right? So this is actually the 0 point to the really hardcore pilgrims. So actually, I'll admit, I took a bus because I was going to a retreat in Muxia for 3 days, and kind of it was literally a retreat to contemplate your Camino is kind of what it was. And turned out the hostel owner was kind of a crazy cat lady, but all the other pilgrims were cool. And I love this sign. I saw that walking into Santiago that said "Love One." I just want to share that. This is us saying goodbye because everybody else was going back on the bus to Santiago, and I was staying there. And but you can see I was staying in a very beautiful place. That's right. And that going to the coast, the point of that was to bring back the shell. You would get a scallop shell, and the scallop shell is one of the other signs of the Camino. So, and then I got to take a bus to Porto, a plane to Paris, and a plane to Nashville. Pilgrims 1,200 years ago had to turn around and walk it back. They didn't have trains, and they didn't have a horse. They had to walk it back. So, what dedication. So reality in a post-Camino world. The house sold, I had to move. I had decided to sell the business when I was at the high point of the Camino, and the house had sold, and I was like, I think I need to keep going with selling things, just for my own peace of mind, and just, taking some pressure off me. I don't know how many small business owners are in here, but it's a lot of pressure when you have employees, and I loved being an employer, but it is a lot of pressure, and the media businesses go, go, go. So I was just needed to slow down. The new way was, I'd always wanted to try living in downtown Franklin, so I went and rented a cute little cottage on Adams Street, and I loved that. And then ended up buying a house 9 months later, and then, did decide to sell the home pages, and FW Publishing bought them, and I had more resources than I'd ever had. There was staff to help me. I wasn't alone, in that owning of the business anymore. And they really did put a lot of resources into it. I did want to go back and say, I went through Leadership Franklin in 2013, I think. And my youngest was going into high school. And so, no, she just graduated high school. She was going to college. And I got exposed to so many great organizations like Franklin Tomorrow, Battle of Franklin Trust, Franklin's Charge, Williamson Inc., Davis House Child Advocacy Center. I ended up serving on all of these boards. I just got so inspired, and I was, empty nester, freewheeling. So I've been very honored to serve on all of these boards. I was also on the board for since 2012, however many years that is, 9 years, of Lion Publishers, which is a national, Lion stands for Local Independent Online News Publishers. And I ended up serving as chair for 2 years. And in that time, it was just amazing what happened. And COVID was part of it, but we went from a $200,000 annual budget to a $2.5 million annual budget. And after I handed it off, it's grown to $4.5 million. And there's just a lot of resources investing in independent news, local news, because, I think, the national news has gotten a lot of criticism. I personally try to disassociate from that and say, we're local. We know you. You know us. We care about you. And so, let's not go with the media, because we're different. And I try to explain that to as many people as I can. Whoops, sorry. Other things I did, I went through Leadership Middle Tennessee, Leadership Franklin, Brentwood Citizens Police Academy, very fun. So is the Franklin one, so try it. And then I did the Transit Citizen Leadership Academy when they had that whole thing going through Nashville trying to get the light rail, which failed, but it was really interesting to be a part of that during that time. During COVID, 4 other pilgrims and I, Bill, Lindsay, Susan, and Bill's daughter, Shay, we started a company called Camino for Good. And this was just a total heart project. 250,000 people were not going to be able to hike the Camino. Spain is shut down. People are dying everywhere. And so we created a virtual hike of the Camino de Santiago. It's in the App Store, both app stores, and it's under Camino for Good. We built out the French way, Camino Francais, the first time. You basically enter your miles, and it takes you to the city. And then we have pictures, our own personal pictures. Linda from South Africa was actually a professional photographer and gifted us over 2,000 photos. And so the pretty ones are hers, and the rest are mine and Susan's. But you can see yourself on the map. You can actually walk in the cities using the Google Maps feature, and you get stamps in your passport. When you stay at a hostel or go to a restaurant, you're supposed to have 2 stamps from every day that you walk the Camino to get your Compostela. I have no idea if they really count them, because I filled up 3 books, so they probably love me, because I got a stamp everywhere I went. And I hope this doesn't sound too bad, but Lindsay nicknamed me the Stamp Tramp because I wanted a stamp from everywhere. Anyway, and he told everybody that was my nickname. I was like, no, it's Nashville. So you remember this, my life back in 2018? So I'm not going to review that. But now my life in October of 2021 is, perfect time. So my kids are, I've been bragging on them the whole time, but they're all employed. They all got their masters. They even got some doctors. But my youngest got married last October. My oldest is getting married in June of 2022 in Cape Cod, which is going to be so cool. I'm so excited. And then my middle daughter ended up moving back to Nashville from Australia, stayed with me during COVID, and now she's moved to East Nashville, and she's thinking about buying a house in January. So, but they're Boston, Chattanooga, and Nashville, and great places to go and have fun with them. Work, I completed my goals. I grew the company to 8 news sites. We ended up peeling it back to the 2 that weren't so profitable, and that helped me get it in a better position to sell. And then we created Williamson homepage in 2019, and in the same year, we launched our first magazine. So there's magazines around the room, and I think there's some up front too, but that's I think, John, is that our 4th edition? Yeah, it's called the Homepage Guide to Williamson County, and there's useful information in there just about the cities, but then this issue, we took nominations from our reporters, but also our readers, and I think we had over 120 nominations, but the people who have influence, positive influence in the community. It's not your movers and shakers. It's not your politicians. They're really cool people who are quietly doing good. So please pick up one of those magazines. That's my last one. And then, so I'm, retired. This is my first Monday that's actually a Saturday, because every day is a Saturday. And yeah, there's no marriage and no on the radar at all, so off I go. I'm going to travel today. I go up to Connecticut. I'm going to sail with a friend for a few days, and then I come back Thursday night, leave Friday morning for Grand Canyon with my best friend Kelly for her 50th birthday, and then we're going up to Utah and hiking for 6 days in the national parks, and then I'm flying to Los Angeles, meeting Bill, who is actually a charter captain in the Marina Del Rey area, and he's had this long-time dream of sailing in this rally called the Baja Haha. I am the chef on the boat because I don't know anything about sailing. And so I'm really excited. That's going to be from October 28th to November 22nd, and then I come home for Thanksgiving and get to go wedding dress shopping. So I'm very much always on the move. I work out really hard. I do take time to have a massage every once in a while, and I'm living at McEwen Northside Apartments because I sold my house in May, and I just was like, I hadn't years since I sat on the pool, right by the pool, and just actually worked from the pool a few days. And spiritual, I think I'm really excited about. In January, I'm going to go to Spain, and I'm going to do some yoga teacher training. But it's the spirituality of that is kind of like you bring what you want to the table, and then they work with you one-on-one with that. And for me, it'll be bringing God. I'm sure some of the other people will be, bringing different things to the table, and I look forward to learning from them. It's like a 31-day yoga teacher training. And I learned to meditate on the Camino. I had much more deep prayer life after the Camino because that conversation started and it just kept going, and I really felt like, and have felt like since then, that it was just more real to me and more palpable. And I want to write. I have 2 books I want to write, but one is really about the hostel owners along the way. And I have looked and looked, and there's no book about these people, and they really all are love stories. It could be 2 couples met on the Camino from Germany and Switzerland and ended up starting a hostel. There was a father-son. His son was doing it for his father, who had hiked the Camino 50 years before. Just beautiful love stories, and I don't mean romantic love. I mean just love of the Camino, love of people. So I really want to write that. And then self-love and loving others. I have been so lucky to be able to surround myself with wonderful people at work, and my family is amazing. My brother and sister both live in Brentwood, so do my parents. My in-laws live in Franklin, and everybody that I've met through all of my nonprofit work are just good people. When you serve on nonprofit boards, you are around good people, and I just feel so loved and so supported. And in that magazine, my editor totally tricked me. I proofed that magazine twice, and she kept pulling out the page, and there was a big thank you in the back. It's just, won't be the same without you. And of course, I bawled like a baby. Surround yourself with love and people that do love, and places and things that make you joyful. Travel makes me joyful. So after that yoga teacher training, my plan is to hike the Portuguese Way, which is from Lisbon to Santiago. And that everything I learned on the Camino, and of course everything I learned from my mom. She's a kick-butt businesswoman, and my dad was a great he's retired, so was a great salesman, and that all helped form who I am. And but the Camino definitely has just instilled in me the drive to go out and meet new people and share that love and spread that love and feel that love and just get out there. So I'm going to travel for probably about 15 months and then figure out my what's next. That's it. Onward.
Okay, we have time for, anybody have a burning question you need to ask? Okay, Seth in the back, let's put it on the mic, and then I'll bring it back to Kelly.
Approximately how much did it cost? What's the cost to walk the Camino ballpark?
Hang on, Kelly. Sorry. We had that 2-mic situation last month, and I forgot to ask for that.
I I stayed at mostly hostels. I stayed in hotels twice. There's hostels, which are pretty nice, some are not, but, you know, there's the municipals that have 100 beds in them that I didn't stay in those very often. I liked the smaller family-owned hostels. You can stay in there from like €5 to €8 a night, and sometimes like €12 includes dinner. And that's the Pilgrim meals. They're always 3-course meals, appetizer, meat and potatoes, or, you know, some are vegetarian, and then dessert, which I never eat dessert in my real life, but I ate dessert every night on the Camino. So there's that inexpensive way to go. There's pensions, which are family-owned hotels, and then you have hotels. But I really did stay in mostly hostels, and I spent about $3,600, and that included my airfare. So it's a very inexpensive thing to do. Money, you know, if you save, money shouldn't stop you, but for most people, it's time. And I would say most people also don't feel like they can break it up. If you can't do 6 weeks, then you can do it in 2 weeks. Or, you know, those are the common things of why to do it. So, why not to do it, I mean.
One more question? Any more questions? So, I had a question. The app and business that you started, what are you going to be doing? Are you going to continue those, the app, even though people are back walking, or continuing that in the business?
Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we actually had, so I don't think I even told you the best part of why we started the app. I forgot. Got all excited about what it does and not what we did. We actually formed in the state of Tennessee, it's a for-profit business, but it's a public benefit corporation. And so we committed that 75% of our net income would go to the hostels. You think about, there's no pilgrims, nobody was buying those meals, nobody was paying for those beds. These people had no money. And they had to pay their electric bill, they had to pay their rent or their mortgage, you know. And so we ended up giving away $75,000 to 24 different hostels. We saved 24 hostels. And so those are the people that I got to know, and those are the people I want to go back and interview for the book. So. But there's 3 routes now. On October 1st, we launched the Norte, which is the north route, and then we did the smaller route to Finisterre Mexia from Santiago, and then we have the French Way. So there's 3 ways, and a lot of our money that we bring in is reinvested back into the company to build the Norte, and then we've got a grant program. We're going to continue to give away money. That's the business name is Camino for Good. We want to raise money to do good.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And we will be posting this video on our Facebook and website tomorrow, so you can refer friends to watch it and find that inspiration. But I didn't want her to forget to tell you about the benefits of the Camino for Good. I'm really proud of that. So thank you so much, Kelly. Did anybody see the new license plate that's coming out next year? Well, you can stand in line and get that next year, or you can go ahead and get a historic Franklin license plate, and you won't have to change it next year. So we'd be really appreciative if you decided you wanted to do that. So this 2020 was our 20th year of being a community visioning and engagement organization. We didn't get to celebrate in 2020, and we're sort of glad we didn't put the effort in to figure out how to celebrate in 2021. So we're going to be 22 in 22 is our plan. So we're looking to be partners with people and businesses over the next year. Here's upcoming events. Y'all, it's busy. Early voting, October 6th through the 21st. It is not a county holiday, so you could go and vote today if you have not already voted. They are open on Saturdays till noon, I think it is. And the early voting polls are open, I think, till 6 p.m. daily. So please go and vote. This is the really election closest to you. We'll have 4 new aldermen, the ward alderman and an at-large alderman. It's very important. We're not telling you who to vote for. We're telling you that you need to vote. If you need information, you can find that through Franklin homepage has done profiles and followed the candidates forms. You can find out information. There's information on the city page and on williamsonvotes.net, I think. October 19th, oops, too quick. October 19th is Breakfast with the Mayors. Next Tuesday, it's a week early because October 26th is actually Election Day. And we didn't want to conflict with that. But next week at Breakfast with the Mayors, we're going to have Ralph Schultz, who's the CEO president of the Nashville Chamber, talking about the release of the Vital Signs Report. And if you think that doesn't really have anything to do with you, you might drive to Nashville lately. It has a lot to do with you. It is about how economic development impacts our quality of life, workforce development, housing, and transportation. So these are all topics that you want to be informed on. October 26th, Franklin City election. October 27th is the Mayor's Cup Golf Tournament. And the November 16th is our 15th Annual Volunteer Awards. Again, Breakfast with the Mayors. You can be a whole sponsor for the Mayor's Cup, or Emily up here may need a couple of volunteers too. So for that day on October 27th, it's a great tournament, and this is a great gift from Mayor Ken Moore to Franklin Tomorrow, this partnership. So we're excited about it. And then finally, as Kelly mentioned, a lot of good people volunteer in our community and nonprofits, whether being on a board or serving in a capacity of being a volunteer. Our 15th annual Franklin Tomorrow Exemplary Community Volunteer Awards will be November 16th. At Rolling Hills Community Church. We are in the nomination stage, so we need for community organizations, individuals, to nominate an individual organization which has exemplified the volunteer spirit during the last year. I know we've all feel like we've been terribly isolated or alone, but there are people out there who've been doing silent and good works, and we would love to honor them as part of the 15th Annual Volunteer Awards. There are a number of categories. From neighbor to neighbor is one of our categories, something that someone did in your neighborhood or did as a friend. That could be a nomination, volunteer spirit, emerging leader, youth awards as well. So we have a lot of categories, and you can find that on franklintomorrow.org event, and then look for the Annual Volunteer Awards. The nomination form's online. It's completely simple. Have any questions, pick up my card out there on the table and take that with you. Take a magazine, give it to a neighbor, give it to somebody who's new to our community. Think about that. Put them in your business. We've got some, if you want to take those with you. But thanks for being here today, and we really appreciate Kelly squeezing us in. And remember, she's got to make a flight, so she may be dashing out of here. But thanks so much, and we hope you go out and make it a great day.